So in this video we're going to take a look at switch statements, and switch statements work in a similar kind of way to if-else statements, which we looked at earlier in this section. In a switch statement we provide multiple outcomes or cases, and then when an expression matches one of these cases, an action is performed. So let's take a look at how switch statements work in JavaScript. So let's create a new folder, and this is number 5, and it's called switch statements. And then let's get that opened up in our text editor, and then drag inside the switch statements folder, and then open up the index page. I'll make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. And then I'm going to change the title again to switch statements, and then remove all this between the script tags. So with a switch statement we're comparing a statement, or in our case we're going to create a variable, and I'm going to call this variable the month, and then I'm going to set this to January. And then to create the switch statement we use the switch keyword, and then open up some brackets and then the curly braces. So it basically looks a little bit like an if statement at this stage, and like the if statement we pass in inside the brackets the condition we want to check. So in our case we want to check the variable of month, and then we're going to provide multiple cases that we want to check against, and we use the case keyword, and then we start to give it some outcomes that we want to check. So if we check if the value is January, and then use a colon, and if it is January we can provide a outcome, or we can run some code. So I'm just going to do a document write, and then I'll just pass a message in there such as Happy New Year. And then afterwards we want to use the break keyword, and when an expression is matched to the particular case, in this example January matches the case, so because this is matched we then use the break keyword, and we'll put this after each case, and as soon as the condition is met it then breaks out of the switch statement. But we said earlier that switch statements are useful for checking many different outcomes, and we simply just do this with more cases. So let's put some more months of the year in there. So let's put in July in there, and then a document write. This time I'm just going to put in halfway through the year. And then the break keyword again, just after the document write, just in case this condition is matched, and make sure that all the cases are in between the two curly braces, otherwise you'll start to run into problems. And we can keep going with it as many as you like. I'm going to create one for December, and then the colon, and in fact we'll just copy this document write and then paste that in. And this time for December I'm going to put in nearly the new year, and then the break just after it. So this is essentially how a switch statement works. It will go through the individual cases until the statement is matched, and then it will break out of the switch statement. But if an outcome can't be found, we need to provide a default case. So this is a default code to run if none of the cases are matched. So default and a colon, and then just put in the default code in there. So I'm just going to put in the month is, and then I'll just put the month variable into there. So if we can't match one of these statements up, and if we can't print out the message, we'll just get the default, the month is, and then in our case in January. So save that, and then let's open that up in the browser. Okay, so because we've got the month set as January, we set the case to be Happy New Year, which is just the first one there. So if we change the month to July, we should get the halfway through the year message. So refresh that, and halfway through the year appears. Let's just try December, and we should get the third case of nearly the new year. And refresh. There we go, great. And if we put in a month which is not one of these cases, so we'll try March, hopefully we should get the default case, which is the month is and then March. There we go. So we can also put in as many cases as you like, and you can even provide more than one case with the same piece of code to run. So for example, if we wanted another case on there, and we wanted to say nearly the new year for November and December, that's not a problem. We can just do our cases like this, and then this document write will be run if the case is either November or December. So let's just try that. So change the variable to November, so nearly the new year, and that should work the same for December too. Still nearly the new year, and we'll just try one more. So October, and we don't have a case for October, so we should get the default, which is down at the bottom. Refresh, and there we go. So the month is October. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and I hope you understand that switch statements are really useful for when we want to check a condition against many possible different outcomes. And in the next video, we'll move away from the theory and we'll move on to a mini challenge where we can start to put your skills that you've learned in this section into practice.